So I thought I'd show you how I go about putting these circuits together. This is two of the PMP7 TOTI boards together. I'm going to leave them connected because the two tracks are next to each other and it's just easier to screw them down. But I'll just show you putting on one at a time. A couple of tools that really help this job is a decent soldering iron. But this isn't an expensive soldering iron, this is a cheap copy of a decent one, and it's actually been excellent. I've had it for years, works really well, gives me good temperature control, and on it there's a somewhat dirty chisel tip. The solder I use is leaded solder, which I think has got a little bit of, no, hasn't got any silver in it, it's just 60-40. Find that really easy to use, it lasts forever. Blue tack, this is new to me and I found it to be really useful and speed the job up. Right, so onto the circuit. When I pick the order in which I'm going to solder stuff, typically try and work with the flattest components to the tallest components. So if there were any links on in here, just bits of wire, I'd do them first. Then typically I'll do resistors, small diodes, bigger diodes, the LED and small capacitor about the same size. Then I've got the opto isolator and socket, and then the last thing will be the big electrolytic capacitors because they always stick up. When you're putting the resistors in, it doesn't matter which way around they go, but just because I like my boards to be neat. If I think about it, I don't always think about it, I will try and put them in the same way around so they look right. Because this is a Merg kit, all of the parts came sorted in the correct quantity, which is how I know which resistor is which. I can't read resistor bands without looking it up. I just don't know. I can never remember them because I don't do this often enough to. If I did it day in day out, I'd remember. Some people would just say do one or two components at a time, but I've found that I can get away with putting all of the resistors in at the same time and doing all of them. It just speeds the job up. Again, one of the other little skills that you end up picking up over time is where to bend the legs. Most boards that are done like this, that have used a template, you basically bend it as close as you can get it on the resistors. But as you'll see when I come to do the diodes, I just measure it up by eye. There are some really neat tools for accurately bending legs in just the right place, and I keep forgetting to buy one. Ooh. Right, so this is where the blue tack comes in really handy. Often use the blue tack, does two jobs. It will hold components in place, but it also stops the board moving around while I'm soldering it. Clean the tip, it's got a bit of solder on it, and then that's what I mean about having a decent soldering iron. I've had a cheap £5 soldering iron in the past, and you just can't get nice, neat, tidy results as easily because it's got inconsistent temperature. If you do end up with a adjustable soldering iron like me, I've got this one set at about 330 degrees, which I've found to be pretty good temperature for getting the job done quickly but not burning any components. And now I'm just going to use my snips, chop off all the leads. Sorry, I've just realised that last shot might have been slightly out of the edge. Right, next up is this little diode, iron 4148, which goes across there. Diodes have to be the right way around. They'll have a little band on them. This one's got a little black one on the glass. These bigger diodes have got a painted silver thing. A well-designed circuit board like these ones will have an indicator, so you know exactly where it needs to go. Here, if I turn this over, that could move and come out. That's why the blue tack's so handy. So I'm just using the board itself to try and show exactly how wide it needs to be, and just having a guess. It doesn't matter if you get it slightly wrong, the leads will still bend as you put them through. And if you really don't like it, take it back out and rebend it. Here, just making sure I get these two the right way around because they oppose one another. I believe they're working as a rectifier in this circuit. These bigger diodes tend to have thicker leads, so they need just a touch more time to get them hot enough. And then each time I pick it up, I will have a quick look to make sure all the joints look good. Try and stop bits of wire flinging around, because if it got you in the eye that'd hurt. Right. I have lost the little capacitor, which is what I need. So I'm going to... Where's that gone? Just to speed this video up, I'll steal it out of the next kit and then I'll find it again in a second. It'll be on the desk or on the floor somewhere. So these typically are not, don't care what polarity, they can go in either way round. Actually, I'm going to do the opto-isolator and socket next. So with the opto-isolator, there's a dot on the board, top left, and it's really difficult to see on this one. There's a dot printed on them. I also know which way round they are because this is the fourth one I've done. Similarly with the socket, there's a dot on pin 1, so I put the notch at the top. Sometimes the circuit board print will have a notch on it. If you weren't using the blue tack to hold them down, I'd normally just do 2 corners like that and have a look to make sure it's level and flat, because you can always just hold your soldering iron to it whilst pushing it down and it'll reseat it. But I've found with using the blue tack they hold them well enough that I don't need to do that. Capacitor and the LED. The LED is the polarity does matter. On the LED, positive is on the longer one, and the thick end of the arrow on the symbol is the positive. Right, I'm probably going to just do one leg on the LED and then straighten it up, because I don't think that's gone on very well. That's what I mean. Blue tack stops the board moving around. And then the last thing is the electrolytic capacitor, polarity based. This one will have a stripe down it, which is the negative. Again, with this one I'm going to do one and check it's on straight. That is not very neat. That tip needs cleaning. So at the minute that's not quite straight, so all I'll do is put my finger on the top, putting pressure towards the board, and then remelt the solder. And that's good for now. And then do the second lead. Right. That's all the soldering on this board. Oops, that's not very neat. Catch the lead, stop them firing across the room. Make sure you've earthed yourself. I can earth myself on my soldering iron. When you're putting the ICs in, you'll normally need to bend the legs. Often with these 8 pins I'm very lazy and use my fingers, but it's not really the right way of doing it. If you grab it to the side and push it down on a nice flat surface, you can do it evenly. And when it comes to doing 14, 16, 26 pin picks, it's much easier to do it that way. And you're lining up the dot. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. You line up the dot with the dot on the bit on the board. And that's it. That's that totally finished. I don't have any junction blocks for this one. I've got some in the post, but I might just solder leads on for now.